get damaged during a workout, which most people do during a regular weight workout, the protein synthesis that happens just has to do with repairing the muscle. It doesn't get stronger at all.
Welcome to the Man of War podcast. My name is Rafa Conde, and of course, I am a man on a mission here to transform you into a modern day warrior, a stronger husband, father, leader, visionary, a man of action. Listen, my brothers, thank you so much. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I am honored and I am humbled to say that we've crossed 10 million downloads in just under 4 years. So I'm looking back when I first started this podcast and damn, can't believe it's only been a few years and we are here. It feels like we've been around for a decade. But because of your support, because of men like you who want to step up and start living lives that truly embody a warrior spirit, we are where we are. And we're going to continue growing. We're going to continue pushing this movement forward without a doubt. All right, listen, if you have not followed us on any other media, any social media out there, go to Man of War, right? MAN of War with two R's, okay, on Instagram. Also, we are building this YouTube page here. We want to make sure, all right, that you click the notifications, that you subscribe. We just started this YouTube page, YouTube channel recently. So we're thrilled, man. It's going very well. We're growing. We know that you got to have tremendous tenacity and perseverance for a page, a channel to build. So we're excited about that. We're going to have this podcast live on Thursdays. So you can watch it on YouTube, or of course, you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple, and every other podcast app that you listen to, your favorite one. All right. So the Men of War Crucible. A lot of you have asked what it is. You've seen the buzz. You've just been on it, and I appreciate that. There's a lot of powerful videos that have come out. We've seen lives transformed. We've seen men operating at different levels. Well, what I want you to do is go to Men of War Crucible. That's MEN of War Crucible.com with a / Crucible 2. All right. This is our newest web page where you can really dive in to find out what we are all about. All right. Remember, this is a by selection program. It is not for everyone. We are booked all the way into January 2022. So we usually book out 6 months ahead of time, and we are growing very, very quickly. This Men of War Society, which is the brotherhood where you go into after graduating from the Men of War Crucible. Well, all I can tell you is that you'll see coming in December what we're talking about in the gathering. With that said, I encourage you to apply. You may not get selected, but I can tell you this, for those who get selected and you go through the process and you actually graduate, it'll be the most transformational experience of your life without a doubt. All right, here we go. Getting into today's show, we have a very special guest, Dr. John Jaquish. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. This guy is going to go against a lot of things that you believe in. And I'm going to read this out to you exactly so you get a good feel. All right. He spent years researching and developing improved approaches to health. All right. He is the inventor of the most effective bone density building medical technology, which is now partnered with Tony Robbins and OsteoStrong for rapid clinic deployment. All right, he's also the inventor of X3, a technology that is proven to develop muscle much faster than conventional weightlifting, all with the lowest risk of injury. Now, listen, this is the deal. When I say this, and I mean it, okay, when I go through this podcast, when I speak to Dr. Jaquish, we're going to really dig deep, and we're going to find out why it is that he believes that weight training sucks. All right. And because this guy's a strong dude, he's buff. You'll see exactly what I mean in a little bit. But man, I mean, the conversation that we're going to have here is going to be very deep. It's going to test your limits as far as knowledge, but more importantly, what it's going to do is going to give you something new to chew on. All right. Because I'm a believer that you don't necessarily need 2 hours every day on the gym. So I think from a small perspective, as far as time wise, um, this will be great for guys that are running and CEOs that are doing things that don't have 2, 3 hours to, do, the gym. All right, guys. Hope you enjoy this conversation, and we'll see you on the flip side. Dr. John Jaquish, welcome to the Man of War podcast, my brother. It's an honor to have you on.
Rafa, thanks for having me.
So, listen, I have been researching the hell out of you. You are unique and you are a master at your craft. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to break it down. Okay. We're going to go deep. We're a little bit unique in our way, in our philosophy, because we ask questions that a lot of other podcasts may not want to ask. We want to know what you're about. We want to know where you come from, where your belief system is, and why we should be implementing what you're preaching, your beliefs. We're a group of open-minded podcast listeners that just want to be developing all the time, right? Constant growth. That's what we're about. Learning new things and implementing new things to our lives. All right. So let's start from the bottom here. All right. Give us a little bit of an input, a highlight who John Jaquish is.
Okay. Well, I got my start in life sciences. Like I was actually doing like enterprise software sales for a software company after graduating from undergrad and finishing my MBA. And my mother was diagnosed with osteoporosis. And so when I looked into what that is and how I could help her, she refused to take the drugs, and drugs had a lot of negative side effects associated with them. So I understood her position. And I've never been like a pro pharma person or an anti pharma person. I think the FDA has pulled clearance for a lot of drugs over the years. So they say it's good, and then all of a sudden they say it's bad, and they pull clearance. So like it's they don't have a great track record of only recommending healthy things, but still, like there's still some the pharmaceuticals that are fantastic and life saving. And so when she said I don't want to take the drugs, I looked at the side effects and I said, yeah, well, all right, like I understand that. And so what I decided to do was look at how I could possibly stimulate her body to grow the bone density again. Now, we all grow bone density when we're kids, and we stop growing it later. So really, like when someone who's under 30, they have more bone building than bone loss
Right.
going on, and then that ratio changes after they turn 30. And then when they hit menopause, there's like an accelerator to the bone loss. So, but men have a problem with low bone density. 1 in 3 women will have an osteoporotic fracture in their life, and 1 in 5 men will have one. So,
That's interesting.
so yeah, and you got a 50% chance of death if you have a hip fracture after the age of 50 within 1 year.
Damn. All right.
So yeah, osteoporosis and the complications with osteoporosis end as many lives as breast cancer. So this is a huge problem. And the approach I took was just very unorthodox. I decided to look at emulating high impact, which is how children build bone density. You ever in a house with little kids and they're running around and they sound like elephants, just pounding their feet on the floor.
Sure.
You know, when we become adults, we toe strike, like when we're moving fast, when we're running. We don't pound our whole foot against the ground. So they don't know that they're doing this, but that builds them bone density. They accept higher levels of impact that we do as adults. Now, our biomechanics change for a reason, but we want the benefit of impact without the risks of impact. So I developed a series of medical devices that are found at OsteoStrong clinics exclusively. And there's 150 clinics, no more than that, like 160 clinics around the world in 9 different countries where you can go through this therapy. And the objective is emulating high impact to trigger bone density growth. So what we do is we get a person in a position where they would naturally absorb high impact force, like in the upper body. This is just easy to show. So back of the hand in line with the clavicle, 120-degree angle from the upper to lower arm. I
Mhm.
can either absorb or produce the greatest amount of force in that position.
Gotcha.
When the clinical trials were going on for these devices,
Hmm.
I was in London. It was a hospital in London that did it, and the research was done through the University of East London. And when I was there, some of the physicians at the hospital were test subjects in the study, and they're asking me, like, I can't really like do anything, like advise them or anything like that, because it would taint the study. So it was more just like a social thing, like, oh, hi, how are you? And they said, just out of curiosity, like, what do people do when they lift weights? Like, what kind of weights do they handle? Because we're handling so much force. Some of these women had never exercised in their life, and they're holding 6, 7, 8, 9 times their body weight with their hip on their hip joint. So they're compressing the hip joint
Sure.
and pushing with their feet in a sort of a leg press type movement, but the actual movement is only about an inch or two.
Hmm.
And the movement does not come from the machine. The movement comes from the compression of bone. So your bone actually compresses. Most people don't know that,
Wow. Okay.
but it is pliable. And so they compress the bone, and then that triggers the bone to grow, because all the distortions within the bone matrix are seen as an irritant. Then the body responds by pulling in more minerals and building more little walls within the bone that increases the density
Hmm.
as opposed to porosity of the bone. So in this process, I saw these high levels of force being used, and somebody asked about the comparison, and I said, I don't know, but I can compare it because the National Institute of Health maintains a database called the NAINS database. It's an acronym for something I'm not recalling right now, but it's I won't. I'll butcher it. But the NAINS database has 20,000 people that they have all kinds of health metrics on: percentage body fat, what they lift, what they eat, what they do, medications they take. And so this is supposed to be the biggest database, so that other studies can use that as reference points, not necessarily as to this is what healthy people do. It's this is what people do. We got a problem where often we compare things to normative data, to what the average is. But if the average person is overweight, then do we really care what the average is? So that's
Sure.
one of those problems with the database,
Makes
right?
sense. Yep.
So when I looked at that database, when it comes to strength production, which has nothing to do with body fat, which I liked, because that factor is completely screwed up,
Mhm.
especially for our country. What it showed was that humans are 7 times stronger in the impact ready range of motion than they are in the weaker range of motion. And so I thought, wow, if we're 7 times stronger in that position I just showed you, and the sort of like the impact ready 120-degree angle joints, we shouldn't lift weights. Weightlifting is a terrible idea because it's the same force through the entire movement. So what we need is a weight that changes as we move, which takes everybody, as soon as I say that, they're like, oh, like band training. Yes, but a lot heavier than band training. Band training's been around for a long time and it never took off. And the reason is you're either using such a weak force with the band that it's not going to stimulate any growth, or the force gets high enough, you're going to twist your joints. So, somebody throws a band behind their back and they go to do a push up and the hands are twisting like this. And so that creates either joint discomfort, or you could break your wrist or your ankle, which will slow down your training. So I thought, okay, band training is not it. And so it needs to be something else. So like bands can create variable resistance, and we want to vary the resistance, but it needed to be bands that nobody's ever seen before, like really powerful banding. And then I needed to come up with an Olympic bar that could manage the banded force and another ground to stand on so that the banding could move freely underneath the plate while somebody's standing on it wouldn't twist their ankles. It takes 7 pounds of lateral force to break the ankle. And we have people deadlifting with 700 pounds. So that plate is extraordinarily needed. So that was what I designed, and that's what I was granted patents on. I have 16 different patents in 37 different countries. So yeah, it was exciting when putting this together, and I attacked the problem hard and launched, and then I had some science on the website. And before I launched the company, I had taken it to a couple other fitness manufacturers to see if they wanted to license it and maybe make it their product. Because I was already busy with the bone density technology. And a lot of them said, wow, you want to make a scientific presentation to a fitness audience. The problem is fitness people are really stupid. Like they want their nutrition and their science summarized in a meme, like, a fragment of it. And we have this problem with politics too. Like everything needs to be summarized to like a half a sentence. And it just so happens that just about everything is more complicated than that. So these meme people are just, the advice is stupid by definition. Oversimplification is another word for wrong. And a lot of people don't understand that.
Sure.
And also when you go to apply science in your life, whether it's nutritional or exercise science, you need to understand the underlying principles. Otherwise, if there's an adjustment made for convenience or for scheduling or whatever, if you don't understand the underlying principles, you're just going to screw something up. Is like this. I work out for 10 minutes a day. I eat one meal a day. I drink no fluids during the day, nothing. So I'm dry fasted, and I only take one supplement. So I spend hardly any money on my fitness because I see people buying all kinds of supplements that don't do anything, and I just shake my head like, man, like the answer is within the human body. It's not like if you find some mystical chemical from the Himalayas, like that's where growth is coming from. No, people have been growing muscle all over the world. They didn't have access to anything special. Basically meat and organ meat. That's it. That's what people had.
All right.
And
Let
everywhere
me.
you go where people were strong, that's what you'll find they ate.
I got you. So let me back up here so we don't just kind of gaze through this. All right. So your day when it comes to fitness and diet, just to break this down, eh, you work out for about 10 minutes, and basically you have some type of fasting routine. Is that how you work in it?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many hours do you go fasting?
20 hours dry fasted.
Shit. Okay. So you're basically now no liquids, nothing basically for 20 hours every day.
Correct.
So what are what's your time frame to eat? Like what time during the evening, I'm assuming, or
Yeah, about like 4 o'clock. I'll start to rehydrate. I'll train. I'll do my 10-minute workout and
wow.
train. You don't want to call it that. I mean, it's a very hard workout, by the way. Like, I don't say that what I do is easy. It's not easy. Hardest workout you've ever done. But because the technology is superior, it enables your body to activate to a much higher degree, which takes you to a much deeper level of fatigue, and that's why it's effective.
Mm-hmm.
So I hydrate, I do my workout, I do some stretching after my workout, never before. After you stretch before a workout, you shut muscles off. So I'll never do that. And then I have my one meal. And then my hydration includes that supplement. It's called Fortigen. It's a really, really potent anabolic protein. It's the most potent anabolic proteins ever been created. Um, and then I have a meal, which is maybe 50 to 100 grams of protein, which is maybe just a giant ribeye steak, like a pound of ribeye or something like that.
Damn. So you're pounding that down in one sitting?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. It's
So
not that
as
bad.
far as hydration, let's go back on that. I mean, after you go 20 hours without any hydration, I mean, what are you drinking outside of that protein drink, Fortigen, or I don't.
Yeah.
What else are
So
you?
I mix 4 doses of Fortigen in 1 liter of water, like right when I break, the dry fast, and that's so I can get some hydration for the workout too. Um, and then consume another liter of water through the course of the next 4 hours, and then after dinner's over, maybe a little bit later, but nothing else.
And you don't feel dehydrated at all during the day, or?
It's a great question. Great question. In the beginning, I felt dehydrated. Dry mouth, whatever. And then as soon as I feel that, I just have a sip of water and see how I felt. And usually just kind of went away. But my body has become very, because I've been doing this 6 months now. My body has become very good at tapping metabolic water, which is the intention of dry fast, the health intention. Many people who do it for religious reasons. But
Mhm.
then it's kind of lame looking at those studies done on the Ramadan fasting people, because they're not doing it for like weight management or
Mhm.
for really low body fat.
Sure.
They're doing it for religious reasons. And then when they're allowed to eat, it's like a feast. So it's everything. They eat everything. And there's no laws against or rules against or shame put upon those who eat incredible amounts of sugar in most Muslim countries, which is why they are the most diabetic countries. Um, so you know they do it for one reason, but it's a religious reason. It's not a health reason, but it has a benefit. So then I do this dry fasting. I get my protein.
Mhm.
But while I'm dry fasted, my body starts tapping into metabolic water. Metabolic water is the water that's in cells that are non-vascular. You only have one kind. That's fat cells. Everything else has a purpose. Fat just sits there. So you start dehydrating the fat cells, which ultimately destroys them. So when you lose body fat through caloric restriction or fasting, you don't destroy the cell. It just shrinks. It just gets smaller. But then that's why people who were obese, once they start eating a little out of control again, they blow right back up to their previous size.
That's interesting. All
This
right.
is Yeah, it's a method of destroying fat cells permanently. Um, and
How, I
so
mean, how, what kind of sustainability can you achieve here? I mean, you've been doing this 6 months. Is it realistic to do this all year round?
I think if you have enough body fat, yeah,
Hmm.
and I did. I mean, still, like, I'm eating a decent meal at the end of the day, so um, I'm down to, last I checked my body fat, it was just over 7%. So what I'd like to see is either I'm going to maintain 7%, and I'll be very happy with it, because like my abs show all the time,
Mhm.
and that's nice. That feels good, but the I want to see. So I want to either get better or see if I can just use this to maintain what the body fat level that I have
Mhm.
developed. And I'm still growing muscle, by the way. This whole 6 months I've been getting bigger while at a caloric deficit. Now, people have trouble whenever I say that, just because they don't know the science. The science dictates that you don't need a caloric surplus to gain muscle. In fact, you can be at a caloric deficit and gain muscle. You have to be at a protein surplus. So these are the things that I came across when deciding what the best diet was. That just made it kind of obvious.
Mhm.
Uh, like, it's really all about protein.
So
how
when we
much
talk,
you
let's talk a little bit about protein. 2 pounds per, 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Is that the formula? That's
one,
still
just
just
1 gram
one?
per pound. Yeah,
One. Okay. So if you're 200 pounds, 200 grams of protein,
right.
and you, even if you stick, a lot of people talk about that when you are taking protein, your body, if it's more than a certain amount, will not assimilate it. I mean, let's talk about that. That's something for me personally that I've always heard, where if you're taking like 50 grams at a time, like you're really, your body can only assimilate 20 or 30.
It's not true.
Really?
And yeah, they took a group of football players and had them eat 1 meal a day or just 2 meals a day, and they had the other group have the same amount of calories, same exact food,
Hmm.
but split it into six instead of two. They gained muscle at exactly the same rate.
Really?
So
That's
two
good.
huge meals was just as good as six smaller meals with the same nutrients. So, you know, who came to the conclusion that you need only 50 grams per meal is the people who make whey protein shakes, which are how many grams of protein?
I get it.
50. So
I
yeah,
get it.
they did it
So,
to sell protein
hmm
shakes, right? So it's like, well, I can't have my protein during my meal, but if I go to work and I have three of these shakes during the day, then I'm getting all my protein. Now, whey protein is only 18% usable by the body anyway. So, like, I don't bother with that.
wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's strong. All you read out there is, whey protein and, whey isolates and, all this shit. And then it's like, you don't know. I mean, so let me ask you something. This is, let's get down and dirty here. For the person that is going into fitness and says, you know what, let's just talk, a 40-year-old man says, I want to change my life. I've been chubby. I've been out of shape. And right now, I just want to take the step in the right direction, start eating well, start doing a solid exercise plan. What do I need to do here? What would your first recommendation right off the bat? What would it
So
be?
you picked a great age because I started this. So when I was doing the bone density thing only, I was not in shape, like at all. Like I was a
You're like
chubby.
you're a beast right now. You're shredded rock,
Well,
man.
I mean, that's me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So when I was 40, I was not in shape at all. Like I had been flying 200,000 miles a year, so mostly like airport food and just restaurants where I was mostly eating ketogenic,
Hmm.
but not counting anything. I was at a caloric surplus all the time. I was lifting, but I never really got much out of lifting. I put on a few pounds when I started lifting, and you put on a few more when you go through
Hmm.
puberty, which has nothing to do with your lifting.
Hmm.
And I think that's why people get so brainwashed. It's like they lifted in high school, and that's the last time they grew, and then they repeat the same workout for the next 30 years, and nothing ever happened. Like not a fucking thing.
Yeah,
And they're
shit.
like, well, it worked when I was in high school.
Hmm.
Right, because you were a child and you went through puberty. Like it had nothing to do with your workout.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so yeah, and standard work, and I can prove this. I do prove it in the book. Standard workouts are just such a garbage stimulus. And so um, when God, I lost my place. What was I saying?
Well, basically, we talked a little bit about the football players, which blew me away with the fact that you were talking about, that the
Yeah,
protein, and I love that.
assimilate.
That was, yeah, that was
Yeah.
amazing because we have such a bad information out there that people just don't get it, man. That you can't go out there and just believe everything. And then, we're talking
There's
about,
usually, yeah,
and
yeah,
then we're,
I got it. Yeah, there's usually a like a budget behind a lot of these things that people
mhm,
learn
mhm,
because there's a product to be sold. I mean, I suppose I'm no different. I'm selling a product too. But the difference with me is I'm giving good information, just factual. So like the whole like you need a protein shake every couple hours, like yeah, said the protein company. So, hey, like we got researchers getting paid by Kellogg's and Nabisco trying to convince everybody to go vegan. Well, why would Kellogg's and Nabisco care about that? Because Kellogg's and Nabisco know that vegans don't eat kale. They eat cookies and cake and like vegan snacks and processed foods. Because if they don't eat processed foods, raw vegetables don't have enough caloric density to keep them alive. Like it's just a fact. Like if all you eat is kale, you'll die of malnutrition. Like there's not enough calories in it. So you gotta have processed foods. 39.5% of what vegans eat is highly processed packaged foods, basically sugars.
Hmm.
So that's where they're getting their calories from, which of course contributes to diabetes, heart disease, and contrary to popular belief, their all-cause mortality is lower, so they die younger than meat eaters. The converse was found by Seventh Day Adventist researchers who have a religious mandate to convert everybody to be vegetarian. So a lot of biases, and then there's other nutritional organizations, which like Institute of Nutrition and Food or something like that, but it's really just another name for Nabisco. It's just like a subsidiary of Nabisco.
So let me ask you something, because this is, we're going to do some real talk here. You got to have balls, okay, to be able to come out like this and say it, because the reality is that there's probably a gazillion people that are going to disagree with you, and you should, it. I'm sure you get attacked left and right for people that believe one way or whatever, but you are so
There's
steadfast
losers
in you.
everywhere.
Yeah. So you're so steadfast in the way you're saying things, and so confident, and not only that, but look, your representation of what you believe in, and the fact that you have research and scientific proof to go with that. People got to shake their heads. And for those that are listening to this podcast, man, you know what? Sometimes you got to think outside the box, and not everything you think you've learned and that you've read is necessarily right. Sometimes we got to open our mind a little bit and think outside that box, without a doubt. So for you, I want to know, Doc, how, I mean, in this day and age where, look, you have so many different, uh, I guess, for lack of a better word, subject matters, subject matter experts. You got guys that are telling you, that weightlifting, you got to lift it a certain way. You got guys that are going to tell you, diet is everything. You got other guys that are going to tell you, the way to get ripped is by running and doing excessive cardio for fucking 2 hours. And
there are people that are way more stupid than that. There's people on our X3 users forum that are convinced that the more carbs you eat, the leaner you'll be. Like never has there been a more untrue statement. In fact, I don't I can here's a statement for you. Carbs are not a macronutrient. They don't fit the description. Your body doesn't need them in any way whatsoever. Doesn't need them. You could never have a carbohydrate for the rest of your life, and you'd be leaner, stronger, everything would be better. So why do we consume them? And of course, they're upset because everybody wants to hear that they can eat cake and still look great, but it's just not the case.
Right. No, I hear you. How is this affecting you the last 6 months? Outside of the physicality, you maybe let's talk a little bit about your mentality and how you feel overall. The last 6 months, a lot of people that go in these hard fasts, they say that their mind's a little bit clearer. They just feel like a little bit lighter on their feet. Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. One of the things I found most annoying as I was trying to gain muscular size, I put on, depending on hydrated or dehydrated, like 60 pounds of muscle since turning 40, which is crazy. Most people don't put on any muscle past 40 years old.
Right.
So I'm in incredible shape right now. 7% body fat, 240 pounds. I lost 16 pounds of body fat. Um, like just a condition I never thought I could get to, especially drug free. So like I look at the whole like story here, and it's like, okay, like I just came up with a bunch of answers to questions that everybody's had. But then I kind of back up. You're asking from like a mindset perspective. Well, first of all, during the fasting, yes, I have absolutely incredible focus. Also, incredible patience. I never lose my temper. I
Hmm.
used to. Not all. I mean, it wasn't like a hothead. I don't go and like shoot up the grocery
Hmm.
store.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, like I would have considered myself kind of a hair trigger kind of guy. But now, somebody comes into my office and they're like, "Oh yeah, something really got fucked up." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's figure that out." I just never
Uh-huh.
lose it.
Oh.
And so I think, and the research is there for mental clarity, and
Hmm.
especially high animal fat. And then when you fast, you're also burning animal fat because it's your fat. It's the Krispy Kreme donut you had when you were 6 years old
Sure.
that you're burning, right? And that, in fact, LDL cholesterol gets highest when you fast because your body is metabolizing animal fat, your fat. So this is how part of the reason before the research came out, I knew LDL cholesterol was like a false flag for health because it's like, wait a minute, when you eat nothing, that goes through the roof. So that's like saying weight loss is causing heart attacks. So we should all get fatter. I mean, that's when you
Yeah.
say LDL is bad, that's the
Sure.
bad cholesterol. Yeah, bullshit. It's great
Sure.
cholesterol. It sticks to the inside of arteries where there is inflammation. And the reason you have inflammation is because you eat candy. So clearly, just quit eating the candy or other carbohydrates. Corn's not a lot better, or fruit, whatever.
So outside of meat, okay, say you have a you're basically trying to stay with a low carb diet. What
Mm.
other what other things do you eat? Like do you eat fish? Do you eat chicken, eggs?
All meats, fish, chicken. If I'm in Asia, I'll eat bugs because they serve them. Yeah, and water bugs and worms. Like I didn't
and
love
you
them,
and you don't
but
feel
I ate a cobra.
you don't feel hungry, right? The rest of the day. I mean, you go, you eat, your body's already to the point where, hey, this is my time to eat, and you're good.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I would say like if I'm out with people and we're at like a burger joint,
Yeah.
50-50 whether I peel the bun off and eat it with a fork or knife. Like sometimes I just like, all right, I'll eat the bun, but we're talking like 30 grams of carbohydrates.
Hmm.
So that's not going to throw me out of ketosis.
Well, that's where that's another question that now you brought up. That's a good point. So, look, the reality here is this: every man, every one of us has a life, and sometimes you are social with people where you go out to restaurant and eat, and you don't want to be that dude that sits in the table and says, "Hey, I'm not eating shit," because there's. How do you work around that? I mean, you said you might eat a bun or whatever. Is it really going to fuck you up that much if maybe you do have bun with your burger, or maybe you have some rice with your chicken? I mean,
Sure. When you get a little more finely tuned and understand like I can tell what the hydration impact will be, which is a great way to understand carbohydrates. One of the most interesting adventures I have had through my physical growth is I tried to carb load like a bodybuilder. I put on 15 pounds of mass. It's just water in your muscles. So, you store more glycogen by carb loading. I mean, I felt like shit. Awful feeling. Like you'd think like that there's some, carbohydrates or some magical super fuel. No, they're not. They're a low grade fuel that you shouldn't want.
hmm,
Like ketones are the better fuel. So yeah, I did this carb loading experiment so I could show I could put on 15 pounds of, you know, hydration inside of muscle in
Mhm.
4 days. So I did it and I took before and after pictures. And guess what? The before picture looked better because I looked like just slim, like
Right, right.
caught, and I looked really kind of lumpy
Mhm.
in the other picture. But not everybody cares about aesthetics. But I have enough muscle glycogen to produce incredible forces when I work out. So clearly that's not my problem. Gluconeogenesis is taking care of everything. Now, there are some other carbohydrates, like there, if you want to go through muscle hyperplasia, which is this is a really, really highly scientific conversation, but I'll just mention it because um, when you want to stretch the casing of the muscle to make room for growth, you only need to do this when you're extremely advanced, um, because that's not a limitation for a beginner. So you use carbohydrates as a way to superhydrate the muscle. Then you train, fill it with blood in association with a vasodilator like Viagra. Then your muscles are filled up and feel like they're going to explode. And then you do stretching to the point where it brings tears to your eyes. So you have that stretch, and that stretches the casing of the muscle. And they refer to this as bag theory, like your muscle's in a bag. It's called the
Interesting.
muscle thinking.
Does
So
that
you
give you
stretch
a
that out.
harder pump in the muscle? Do you feel like the
Yeah.
blood's gush? Is that
Well,
why
between yeah.
is that why in my younger years when I would eat a whole fucking pizza the night before and hit the gym the next day, I was like fucking holy shit, the best fucking workout.
That's it. Yeah. Right, but it's kind of fool's gold because
Right, right,
while it's a great pump, you didn't really build any muscle.
right, right, right.
It's just more water's there.
Damn, I got
So
you.
is it a good thing? Like so like before my workout, so I do the hydration, then I'll do 40 grams of glucose. In fact, these are the glucose tablets I use. So it's just straight glucose
You
because I
just
want I want
take
no fructose.
straight glucose before you work out.
Right,
Hmm.
right.
Okay.
And the pumps are amazing. It goes right into the muscle. I'm continuing to lose body fat. I'm getting leaner all the time.
What how much
Uh,
how much do you take glucose?
40 grams.
40 grams? Okay.
It's really not much. There are four grams of tablets, so 10 tablets.
Okay. Interesting. Now, let's talk about the actual workouts itself. You know, in such a short period of time, I imagine you just bust yourself. I mean, I imagine they must be very, very difficult workouts. So let's talk
Yep.
about them. How do you get to that level where you're actually having growth happen?
It's a tremendous effort of the body, but it's not hard to achieve the effect because I think most people don't. They never really get a workout because they've never really had a good spotter. Like you want to force reps all the time, right? Like if you want to trigger growth and you're just using regular weights, having a good spotter is like a, it's more of an art than it is a science. But what they're trying to do is use their judgment, and all humans are flawed in their judgment. Offload the harder parts of the movement, and then load, and sometimes hyper load. So like somebody gets to the top of a bench press, and instead of helping, you lift the bar, I see guys leaning on the bar and pushing it down. So they have more force going through the musculature and the stronger range of motion. That makes perfect sense because that's going in line with how our biomechanics are. But somebody pushing or pulling on a bar in assistance of while you're exercising, that's not scientific. There's no good way to measure that. So variable resistance is obviously the superior solution because it's consistent and it can be measured. And
Mhm,
it's the same every time.
mhm.
So one measurement to the next, one workout to the next, if you're documenting your workout, it actually means something. When you have a spotter, really nothing means anything because you don't really know what you did. And neither does he or her. So um, we just get a lot more efficiency with those workouts. But when you know it's going to be a 10-minute workout, you can call upon much more intensity. Like if you know you're going to have to do 5 sets of an exercise, you're not going to go all out the first one because you know you're going to have to do more. But if you know you don't have to do more and that's it, that's your one chance to simulate, you can have a mental focus that is far beyond what it could ever be in weight training.
Makes
And
sense.
also,
Makes
when
sense.
you weight train, you pick the weight that you can handle in the weakest range of motion. So it's really a low weight. No matter what people are doing weight training, it's lower than what the weight is lower than what they're actually capable of.
Sure.
1/7. It's a 7-to-1 ratio difference for a 1 rep maximum in what you can handle in your strong range versus weak range. So if we know that, it's just like you wouldn't train with a static weight.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the exercises that you do. I mean, it's how do you work your chest out, for example? I mean, what angle? It's typically
So
typically you think of lying on a bench or doing curls, excuse me, dumbbell presses, or doing fucking regular bench presses. How do you achieve that?
so what we do is so here's the bar, and so here's the bar. I'm going to hold it in front of me, and the band is going to go around the hook
Mm-hmm.
and then around my back, and I'm pressing out this way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do this, I'm holding 550 pounds here, 300 pounds, not in the middle, but sort of top middle, and then it's about 100 pounds at the bottom. And so I go through repetitions until I cannot any longer get to the top. Then I do a diminishing range. So I do 300-pound repetitions until I can't get there anymore. And then the last couple repetitions are just off my chest.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So it's an entire
Total.
structure and method.
Mhm.
Cool. I like that. Um, just what is the name of that? What is the name of that bar and the kit that you sell, the entire
X3bar.com is where you find
X
it.
X X3bar.com. I'm going to be ordering that right after this. This is good. I mean, and I'm going to bring it to you guys because I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to review it in person. I want to be able to. Do we have videos that we can follow, say on YouTube or anything? Do you have anything
Well,
like that?
absolutely. There's a whole video
Okay,
program.
so
Tells you
we can.
everything you need to do over the first 12 weeks.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm going to do that. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your college career as a coach. All right. Let's get into that. Talk to me a little
Okay, I
bit.
never coached anybody,
Let,
but
let's
I mean,
let's talk about your college days.
okay, sure, yeah. In undergrad, I played rugby,
Hmm.
so I I really looked at human movement in a different way, I think.
Hmm.
Well, obviously, I did because of the osteoporosis device, which was
Right.
still a thing. When I mean, I was still playing rugby when I was coming up with it, but the the strength training that I was doing, like I was getting nothing out of it.
Hmm.
And then in high school I did wrestling, swimming, and track.
Hmm.
Like in wrestling, I really saw how the human body can be conditioned, like what it can be ready for. Like you can make your body a complete weapon. You can be so physically dominant of another
Hmm.
person, your height, weight, and gender. And I wrestling was like wrestling conditioning was 10 times harder than Division 1 rugby training.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn,
Oh
that's
yeah.
tough.
Yeah. High
Gotcha.
school wrestling was so, and we weren't even like in a competitive league or anything like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was just the conditioning, like just getting, to be able to sustain, um, managing the body weight of a person to keep them from pinning you until you can find your opportunity to pin them, going for 10 minutes, like 10 minutes, all out contractions, two people trying to force the other one to yield. It's the most exhausting thing you could ever imagine. And then
Sure.
you feel like there's just acid in every muscle in your body because you're so sore and you've got to keep going. Like for mental fortitude, like I I mean, I don't have any kids yet, but if I ever have a son, I'm gonna want him to do wrestling because like you are just indestructible when you
Awesome.
wrestle. So I learned a lot from that, and I learned a lot about dry fasting in that period of time. Just they just call it cutting weight, but we would dehydrate ourselves, and that was the only time in high school wrestling. And then I followed collegiate wrestling, but I went to Sacramento State, and they didn't have a wrestling team there,
Mhm.
which is why I went out for rugby. But what was interesting is that most performance athletes aren't really lean.
Mhm.
Like you see bodybuilders that are very lean, but that's more like a beauty contest. Like they show up with a look, like they don't have to fight each other or anything, right? So,
Right.
and they don't really have to perform. In fact, some of them cramp and tip over because of the dehydration. Like they can't even stand up to get out on stage to show people what they've created over the previous years. So yeah, I mean that's just kind of a drag of that sport. But I'm always looking at athletics as sort of the benchmark. So like sprinters are the leanest of all types of performance athletes. But then there's wrestlers, and that's just a completely different level of conditioning. Gymnasts a little bit too, but so the nutrition and the strength and the explosiveness all goes together. And so I learned a lot just experience wise. I wasn't reading clinical research back then, but you learn about dry fasting, and I would dry fast before every match, and I would come in to the event 10 pounds heavier than my opponent because I dehydrated by 10 pounds, put the hydration back in. I was a bigger athlete. And so I had a major advantage. So that was that was a thing, and it made me fascinated with what you can do with the human body. Like whoever said there's no such thing as super health, I think it was Arthur Jones that said that. I don't agree. You can get a low level of body fat and a really high level of strength, and then I think the rest of it's mental, being able to push yourself beyond. Like
Sure.
this is where the other people would quit, which is why I'm not going to, sort of thing.
When you do these exercises and you're putting in your time and you're doing the movements and you're doing your repetitions, are you getting a pump similar to what you would if you went to the gym in that short
Oh,
time?
way beyond,
More
huge
so.
bump.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So you're feeling like you're actually there's something there. What about soreness and um, and what would you recommend? I mean, when you say you're doing this every single day, these workouts, or you're alternating, how is
I
the way
take
that you
one
sleep?
day a week off, so
Okay.
the workouts are 6 days a week,
All right.
and
So
then one day.
what's what is this whole process where it used to be old school, where you worked out your arms on Monday, you needed to let them rest for 4 days before working them out again, and and the muscle needs to time to grow. Talk to me
Yeah.
about that.
Turns out it's 36 hours that a muscle needs to grow.
Okay.
Now, the only way that would be longer is if you create muscle damage. Now, the previous myth was that you damage the muscle and it grows back stronger. Not true. Damage and growth are inversely related. So when you get damaged during a workout, which most people do during a regular weight workout, the protein synthesis that happens just has to do with repairing the muscle. It doesn't get stronger at all.
Wow.
Now, if you have a
Damn.
small amount of damage, your body can attenuate the damage and give you a small amount of growth.
Hmm.
But it is only when your body is accustomed to what you're doing that you can only stimulate growth and not have any damage. So soreness is actually a bad thing.
Oh,
Like
fuck. Are you kidding me? Wow.
muscle confusion theory has also been disproven for
Shit.
this reason. Now that we understand muscle damage and growth are inversely related, well, people are always trying to get more sore with their workout by changing things up or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
I got to mix up my workout to shock the muscles into growth.
Yeah.
Just absolute bullshit. Like that came out of no science.
Wow.
Somebody just made that up. I mean, I guess it sounds good, but
Wow.
it's just made up, and that's not the way things work, you know.
So
And
let's talk about that. This fascinates me. How the fuck does a muscle grow? As you know, imagine we were doing the X3 and we were going out there and working out every day and following a certain protocol and eating right. How does a muscle grow? I mean, obviously by looking in the mirror, I guess you can see, hey, the muscle's growing. But what is it truly? I mean, do we need the 36 hours and the rest and the, let's
we
talk
need the
about that.
36. We need the 36 hours. We need to not give ourselves damage. We need to just
Okay.
stimulate.
Okay.
So what you need to do is show the muscle that it doesn't have enough muscle. I know that sounds a little strange, but literally, the central nervous system has to see from two different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
One has to do with the fuel load in the cell,
Mm-hmm.
which is the sarcoplasm. You know, how much ATP, glycogen, or creatine phosphate is in, those are the fuels. That's energy in the
Sure.
cell.
Sure.
How much energy is stored there? The more energy, the bigger the muscle is and the more endurance that muscle has. Now, there are two ways to increase momentary strength or explosiveness. One of them has to do with just neurology. So that's not growth at all.
Mm-hmm.
But like power lifters are always looking to switch on more muscle faster. A pitcher in baseball, pitchers don't have to build gigantic pectoral muscles to throw a ball fast. They just need to fire all of the fibers, all of the cells within the pectoral muscle faster than other people, which is why you take somebody with a really high bench press and tell them to throw a baseball and they don't, they can't throw it like a pitcher can throw it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's very skill specific. So that has to do with strength. But then the most important type of growth is myofibril growth, which is where the cell, the actual mechanical structure gets larger. So there's a structural reinforcement. And you really have to show the body a deficit. Like you have to fatigue the muscle. I don't like the word failure. You take a muscle of failure because people who don't exercise, they don't like hearing I'm going to fail. Oh, I need to fail today.
Sure.
Like
Sure.
it's just like, most entrepreneurs are like, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to take that word out of my vocabulary. I'm not failing. I just need to try a different approach or something.
Yeah.
So then the more accurate word is complete fatigue. You need the muscle, like I was talking about how the diminishing range, where I do however many repetitions I can do with 550 pounds in the chest press, then 300 pounds. This is all in the same set. And then the range gets so short, I'm only dealing with 100 pounds.
Mm.
But if I can't lift 100 pounds off my chest, like how, and normally I can do 550 for 20 repetitions. How exhausted am I? Spectacularly exhausted,
Yeah,
which is why it stimulates spectacular growth.
right. So are you working out different muscles every day? Like, for example, since we're giving our muscles 36 hours of rest, are you
Mm-hmm.
then kind of using a different program or sequence every other day?
So yeah, exactly. So everything actually gets 48 hours because that
Okay.
fits really well on a
Right.
calendar, not like 36.
Right. Right.
Right. And throwing a couple extra hours in there is not a problem. Detraining begins after 11 days. So people are like, oh, I don't want to lose muscles, so I got to train again.
Mm-hmm.
That's 11 days. So chill out. We're fine now. You hear
That's
the
funny.
strange on the internet. So so we split the body two different ways: pushing muscles one day, pulling muscles the next day.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And that's a standard split. That's actually one of the smart things that's been in fitness. It's one of the only smart things that's been in fitness for a long time.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, so let's finish this up. We got a couple minutes, but I want to dive deep right now before we go into your mindset. Okay, and when I say that is, look, uh, for you to get to where you are right now, as reputable and as knowledgeable, you're definitely a guy out there that people that have been in the fitness industry, they listen. They're starting to listen. Okay, and it's what you're bringing to the
Yeah.
table is something very unique, very different. So how, I mean, your mindset right now, where do you want to go, say, here over the next 3 to 5 years? What's your mission? What's your vision? What is it that you want to have the most impact with?
I want to see this variable resistance technology, the bar and the banding and the ground plate. I want to see that be the standard of exercise around the world.
Wow.
Like
That's
I'm going to stop when I walk by a park and two teenagers sitting there saying, God, my dad told me that like in his generation, like people were stupid enough to just lift iron weights
damn.
and like not acknowledging that we have a sevenfold difference in our capacity through the range of motion. I mean, you say this logically to people and they're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then you want to throw away their weight training program and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
but my weight training program is awesome. It's like, really? You've been doing the same shit for like 5 years and you don't look any different.
Wow.
Like I like to point out, and I put this right on the back of the book. There's a paragraph about it right under the endorsement from the
Put that
Miami.
book back up there our YouTube fans could there you go.
Mm-hmm. And
Weightlifting
then
is, I love
the
it. I
back
love it.
endorsement by the Miami Heat. They gave up on weights. They only use X3, as well as about 40 other professional athletes around the world. And right underneath that, though, I have this paragraph that's basically pointing out fitness is the most failed human endeavor. Like people are fatter and sicker than ever. We have more gyms than ever. Like nobody's putting these two things together. Like how many people are truly fit? Well, it turns out the leanest, and muscularity plays into body fat percentage very well, because the more muscular you are, the lower your body fat percentage is, just by by offset. So the leanest 1%, top 1 percentile of men in the United States, 10.6% body fat. That is pathetic. That 10.6 is like maybe you can see your top two abdominals. And also keep in mind, these guys are, they're this counting starts at 18 years of age. So I'm guessing everybody in the 1% is probably 18, 19, or 20. So we're overweight. We're not getting to the body fat levels we should. Like an impressive level of body fat is like 7%. Like that's what people should want. That's where people should be. And the fact that the top 1% is that unimpressive, like I wonder how many people are really have an impressive physique and impressive performance. Like there's a reason why just about everybody with visible abdominals has like a supplement endorsement deal on Instagram, because it's rare. Like hardly anybody has it. Everybody should have that. And I know people who have been working out for 5 or 10 years, and everybody knows people like this. They work out for 5 or 10 years and they look no different. They're still
Oh
fat.
yeah. Oh yeah.
They still have, baby arms and a double chin. And it's just
For
like
sure.
that's the fitness industry. It's just people go, they spend their time, they get no results out of it, but boy, are they convinced that they got the right program. And maybe it just has to do with people like believing they have all the answers, or
Sure.
maybe it's more
Of
like a
course.
Dunning-Kruger thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that study.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yo,
No,
you
that's
are.
that's look,
Yeah.
the way I see this is very simple. I mean, you are, you're stepping up, you're bringing something new. I think people should start opening their minds a little bit, and start looking at this research. I mean, he has scientific there's enough science behind this right now that we need to start trending in the right direction. In reality, I believe that this program will give me and every other guy out there, especially guys that are, working CEOs, guys that are out there in the battlefield,
That's
waking up.
really our market. Our market's
Yeah.
not body. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've discovered it on their own, but we don't market to them.
Yeah.
We're
That's badass, man. That's
yeah,
badass.
we're looking at people who are just like, time is a consideration, and also people that are smart enough to understand
Mm-hmm.
that most people who are lifting weights don't get shit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they go and they do everything right and they eat the right food and nothing happens.
So let me
And
go
it's
back
because
to
they
what
have
I was. Let me go back to what I was asking earlier. From a 40-year-old perspective that's coming into this now, okay, this guy is a CEO, business owner, gets up at 5 a.m, is the first one in the door, but usually goes out, drives 20 minutes to the gym, works out for an hour, comes back. That's 2 hours of his morning. Using your program, ordering the X3 program, following your protocol, staying on a good, healthy diet, low carb diet. I mean, when do you think, for example, a man like this could start seeing changes in the right direction? 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, if he's solid with this?
5 days. You'd see a difference in 5 days.
Really?
No, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Like muscle definition. I mean, unless the person's obese and they can't really see what's going on underneath their adipose tissue, if they're even a little bit lean, they'll see changes right away. And that's what gets people. Like, we have a 30-day return policy. We almost have no returns. Like most consumer products have a 30% return rate, especially fitness. Fitness is on the worst end because people are lazy and they realize, oh, I didn't work out. Like, I ordered this and it's just been sitting there in the box. I'll just ship it back. That doesn't happen to us because people try it one time and they're like, oh yeah, I can do this. This feels great.
Very good. All right.
Yeah.
Where can they order this? And where can they go? As you have,
Okay,
I think,
so
go ahead.
people who have listened to this and they're like, that's the way I'm going to do it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to like sprint into this. Go to x3bar.com and order the product. The Elite Band, which is the band that about half of the NFL players we work with cannot use. That's how powerful it is. You might not need that right away.
Mm-hmm.
You probably will need it later. People get very strong. Like, I don't care what age you are. You're going to be able to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But you might not need it on day one. So if you're not like top, 5% in strength, kind of everywhere you go, then you can probably skip that one for now. And so, yeah, it's $550. It's the cheapest home gym solution and works better than anything else in the market. It'll grow more muscle faster and make you leaner faster. And then when you're done using it, you can put it in a drawer. You don't have to like lose your garage or your guest bedroom because people put a gym in their house, a power rack, in their garage, and then they have to park outside. Like, you don't have to do that with this.
Awesome.
So it's x3bar.com is where you find it.
All right. Where would they follow you, say, on Instagram and Facebook and those social media sites?
Sure. I created a landing page just because people had so much trouble spelling my last name.
Gotcha.
So it's drj.com, DOCTOR, the letter J.com.
Got it. All right. So it's Dr. J. We'll have all that on the finishing notes here on the show notes with links to the X3 bar and the bands and his book. And of course, if you want to follow him on all social media sites, we'll send you to. Do you have links from the landing page?
Yeah, the landing page is links to YouTube, Facebook,
perfect.
Instagram. I use Instagram the most, and I give a lot of just advice. Like, every day, there's like some little piece of science that I like showing people, and these are like little excerpts from the book, or some of them are just sort of general scientific, sort of interesting findings, like the Dunning-Kruger study. I think everybody should know about that. Yeah, basically for the listeners,
yeah,
it really means that the dumbest people think they're the smartest people. It's really funny.
Very true.
Yeah.
All right, Doc, listen, it's been a pleasure having you
Yeah.
on. You blew my mind for sure. We're going to definitely get this episode up and running here over the next week to 10 days, because I think a lot of people need to listen to this. They got to watch this. Um, and like I said, I'm going to personally order one. So he has not sponsored me in any way. There's nothing here except me going to his site, going to get this. I'm ordering it. I will post a couple videos of me doing it because I want to do this. I believe now, for me personally in my life, Doc, is I need more time than anything else. You know, I just need to
Yep.
have time.
We all do.
And an hour and a half, 2 hours every morning, fuck man, it's getting tougher and tougher.
I'm guessing you have kids.
Oh yeah, kids, wife,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
see,
run this organization and
when you have a family, like spending 2 hours at the gym is like, it's not even feasible. Like
no,
you can't do that.
no.
I mean, if you do, I question, how self-centered you are. It's like you got to be with your family, man.
Without
So,
a doubt,
but
without a doubt.
yeah, I can do X3 with my fiance at home. I
Yeah,
don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to worry about her schedule. I know we're both going to end up at home at some point in the evening.
yeah. That's
So,
awesome,
yeah,
man.
perfect.
All right, Doc. Thank you very much for being on, man. I appreciate you, and we'll definitely have you back on soon.
Rafa, thanks so much.
Thanks, man. All right, listen, that was a great conversation. I mean, powerful as hell. Okay. I mean, it tested me because I'm like, wow, weightlifting and the things that I've always been trained on, traditional approach to these to using weights, but he kind of broke it down. He's definitely a rogue in the industry, but he had some great information. Remember, it's great to listen to a podcast like this, but if you're not applying, if you're not integrating what you learn here into your own life, is really a waste of time. So I encourage you to go out there, write things down, and integrate what we learn here into your life. Remember, give us a follow here on YouTube. Important. We're building it. We're doing it for you. We're bringing you tremendous content. Right now, we're doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm really hoping at this point in time that you guys understand that when we put out content like this, is very powerful. We do it from the heart, and we're doing it specifically to help you grow as an individual, as a man, and turn into a man of war, into a warrior minded individual. Until next time, your life may be challenging and full of dangers, but never retreat. Your last battle may be your greatest victory.